Hi, my name is Deborah Ahenkorah, and I am an under 40 CEO.
The African Renaissance. The concept that the African people and nation shall overcome the current challenges confronting the continent and achieve cultural, scientific, and economic renewal is here, with young men and women taking the lead. Some call them the new school heroes. We call them under 40 CEOs.
Deborah Ahenkorah is a social entrepreneur and literacy advocate. Starting her first education organization as a teenager, Deborah has spent the past 10 years exploring solutions for eradicating childhood literacy challenges in Africa. She is the executive director and co-founder of the groundbreaking children's literacy NGO, Golden Baobab, and the founder of African Bureau of Stories, a publishing and multimedia social enterprise. All right, welcome to Under 40 CEOs, Deborah.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
All right, Deborah, it's on record that you once hawked children's clothing in the Makola market just out of sheer curiosity. What were you curious to find out at the time?
I enjoy selling.
Okay.
In its various facets, selling of ideas, selling of product, and a lot of the nature of selling in Ghana is hawking. I got to a point I was writing a little bit. I was taking a creative writing class, and a big part of what I wanted my voice to be was the stories of people who couldn't write themselves. So I was interested in writing a street hawking story, so in some ways a social experiment, but it really stemmed from my deep love for selling and markets.
You went to Bryn Mawr, where you read political science. Why political science?
At the time, I thought I wanted to go to law school, so that was a stepping stone to law school.
And you never did go to law school?
No.
Why not?
I wanted to go to law school because it seemed like a major challenge for me. It wasn't something I knew if I would be able to do and do very well. And for me, I wanted to go to one of the finest law schools in the world. So that was a giant challenge for me. And then I began to work on Golden Baobab, and I saw how important the work is, and I saw the potential that it had to change lives. And I realized that I, more than many people, I'm very well positioned to make a difference in this space because of my passion for this, because of the networks that I have. I decided to become committed to Golden Baobab, and the vision of Golden Baobab is so huge that if we are successful, it's a bigger challenge than law school will ever be, and so much more meaningful than a legal career will ever be for me. So I just decided to commit myself full-time to this path.
Okay, so tell me about growing up in Ghana.
I grew up in a very big family. My dad is a lawyer, so there were lots of books at home, and my older siblings like to read. So what in my home a cool kid read, like, so if you wanted to be mature, seen to be responsible, you read. You know, books were expensive, so I was very lucky. I lived near one of the biggest bookstores in Ghana at that time. It was like literally 3 minutes walking distance from my house, and after school or on vacations I would just walk there and pretend to be surfing the books, but really I would be reading. So I read through rows in the books as I started at the bottom. I'm like, oh, I'm just looking through, but I'm really reading. And I didn't want the salespeople to catch me reading, because obviously they would want me to buy the books. I had to become a very fast reader so that I could get through the books quickly. So books were, it made three quarters of my childhood like I lived in books.
So yes, in 2008 you founded Golden Baobab. So Golden Baobab Prizes, why that?
When I was in high school, I would write letters home to my parents and say, you know, I think we should start a library because it's so simple, right? We just need to find some donated books, and then we just need someone to man the library. And just like that, we can give so many children a happy childhood with books, because we know from my childhood that books were expensive for us, but libraries can make a difference, because apart from the bookstore that I used to go to, we eventually found a library that meant everything to me. So the concept of books, children, lives was a part of every aspect of my life. So when I went to Bryn Mawr in my first year, I found someone who was shipping books to Ghana, and I thought, I mean, clearly I'm gonna be a part of this because this, this I get. There are many things I may not get, but this I completely understand. So I organized book drives and collected books from my college campus and community, and then I shipped it to this organization. We eventually, it started just with me, but I eventually grew it into a student-run organization, and we sent thousands of books to different countries, but along the line I realized that all of the books we were sending were American books, and around the same time I was taking an African literature class, so I was beginning to question my own identity, because I'd go to class as an African and they'd say, can you tell us about the story from Togo? And I wouldn't know. Can you tell us about the Shaka Zulu? And then I don't know. But we talk about American literature, European literature, and then I knew those things. So I began to think, okay, how come nobody knows my story, right? I don't know the stories of my people, and nobody here knows. So our narrative is missing, and I wonder what it would take to kind of begin to fill that gap. So the Golden Baobab Prize is where I started to inspire African writers to create more stories for children and to connect those stories with publishing opportunities to create products for the marketplace that children can enjoy.
Now today you're a curator and global shaper for the World Economic Forum. How did you join this community, and what exactly do you do?
The Global Shapers community is groups of young people across the world in various cities who are passionate about and committed to making a difference in their community. So these young people come together, and it's fantastic, I think, because then you're bringing all of these people who have different strengths, different ideas, different networks, different perspectives together, and all of them really passionate and bubbling to make a difference, and you put them together and you say, make something happen. So I was very privileged to be the leader of this group in Accra over a period of a year, and we launched a few projects. The goal of the Global Shaper community is for these hubs in various cities to find problems in their cities and come up with solutions together to solve those problems. So I was very privileged to be the leader of the group in Accra, and we did some very fantastic things together.
All right, I'm sure you did some fantastic things. It says on the Global Shapers website that you love to collect paintings from across the African continent. Now, how many paintings and from where have you collected those from? And which ones are your favorites?
For me, I love paintings and I collect them, but my passion for paintings or for art is more about the stories of the people who created, which is very similar to my passion for Golden Baobab. I see people who have this deep desire in them to birth something, to create something, and if there's a way I can help to make that possible, I'm excited too. I've collected paintings maybe now from 7 different countries. I have paintings from Nigeria, from Ethiopia, from Swaziland, from Zimbabwe, from South Africa, from Ghana, from Togo. So it's a growing collection, and I'm actually launching a new company in the next few months to promote African art into a global market.
Okay, what's that new company called?
The company is called 54 Faces, and we are currently doing local partnerships. We're launching a monthly art exhibition in Accra, and the goal is to bring art to a more mainstream audience, and to create opportunities for people who didn't think they liked art, or people who would naturally not go to an art exhibition to engage. Exactly, to engage with art. So eventually, I would love to see beautiful African art being appreciated in homes around the world.
This is Under 40 CEOs.
Deborah has led Golden Baobab, and in 2015 launched African Bureau for Children's Stories to expand their work from a Pan-African writing competition to a global force in literacy, developing creativity and promoting culture across Africa and the diaspora, reaching over 20 countries. Golden Baobab, in conjunction with African Bureau, work to inspire African writers and illustrators to create content for children, celebrate and publish their award-winning works, and nurture them through outreach initiatives. In 2015, you founded a publishing company, African Bureau for Children's Stories. How's that faring?
African Bureau is doing fantastic. We are currently working on our catalog for 2016, and we're going to have a number of picture books, a number of middle grade books, and we're also doing some audio books. We are really creating some of the finest products so that for generations to come, children are falling in love with these stories, and not just children in Africa, children around the world as well.
All right, you're getting a lot of nods and recognition for your work. How do they make you feel?
Feel very passionately about because the space of social enterprise is fairly young. The space of using business principles or building organizations whose goal is to make a difference is young, and there's a lot of celebration of effort in that space, right, as a way to motivate the space to grow. With that celebration of effort can come a stalling of activity, in my opinion, right? So I got a lot of recognition very early on in my career. It's very easy for that to get to my head and say, oh, look at me, I'm awesome, I'm an under 40 CEO, right? I'm a Bryn Mawr Prize winner, I'm an Echoing Green Fellow, I am it. But I am not it, because my vision is far grander. I may have done a lot, but I am nowhere close to where I want to be. For me, I'm not successful until millions of children have access to the books that we are creating. I'm not successful until countless children are growing up, falling in love with stories that they see themselves. And I want to see our books on national curricula. I want to see our books in bookstores around the world, right? And we didn't come into this to be recognized. We came in to do the work.
And to
the
be
focus,
impactful.
Yeah, exactly. And the focus is very critical for me.
All right, so on your LinkedIn page, you have a number of influencers. Now, a lot of this are female, and you have just one who is male, Richard Branson.
Okay.
What about Richard Branson inspires you?
I read one of the books that he wrote, and for me, authenticity is important, and I think Richard Branson really lives what he stands for and believes, and he's all of himself in every aspect of his work, and he doesn't shy from who he is, right? Whether it's talking about his dyslexia or talking about his love for fun or talking about doing business in different ways, he embraces all of who he is, and he's been very successful. So I think a lot of that resonates with me, and particularly to the work that we're doing, in that, regardless of who you are, your story is important, and you must embrace it, and you must bring it to the forefront and live your truth.
So in a post that you wrote that was published by the Huffington Post, you said, and permit me to quote you here, that as a child growing up in Ghana, I would feed off the cultures I saw presented in my books, unconsciously devaluing my own. Now, do you think this may be one of the reasons that we have stunted growth in Africa, that we may have forsaken all that we represent?
In terms of owning who we are as a people, I think we don't do that as much, and that's because it's communicated to us in what we consume, right? So for the very longest time, you take Nollywood, for example, for the very longest time, what we consumed in terms of cinematic content was Hollywood or Bollywood or the Western, and then eventually we got a platform to grow our own, and now we see so much of ourselves in our own movies, and that gives agency to people, right? Because my reality is legitimized, it's not weird suddenly, to be who I am, because it's on TV and it's being represented like the village, it's so I think we are social beings, and we operate within social constructs that are a result of what we see and what we believe. Now, if you're made to believe that you're incredible, who you are is valid, your stories are important, you live that and you bring that to the table, and it at the end of the day, it does aid development, but truly to develop as a people, we all individually need to get our act together and live according to the same standard that we judge by.
Okay, so you did mention that one of the challenges that you have as a publishing house is getting these titles in the hands of the children. Why is distribution such a major challenge?
not just in publishing. I think distribution throughout Africa has been the thing to conquer, to be successful in business. And some industries have really figured it out. You think of the beverage industry, for example, or even telecommunication, right? Where there may not be electricity, there will still be a mobile phone. Mobile phones would have still, been distributed, or a Coca-Cola would have still been distributed. So certain industries have managed to crack it, but the book industry not so much, because we haven't developed over time a culture of going to bookstores, right? I'm a book person. How many times do I go into a bookstore a month? I can count, right? So until we get to the point where books are as accessible as Coca-Cola, then we have a problem. If we don't have ways of getting books into the hands of people, and we're just counting on the few bookstores that we have, we're going to continue to have a major problem. And that's something that the book industry as a whole on the African continent has to figure out. And possibly technology might be the solution.
So I know your work involves quite, some traveling. How do these interactions add value and shape the person that you're constantly becoming?
I think being exposed to other parts of the world and other ways of doing things sets a global standard for the work that we want to do. So we look at today, I was in a strategy meeting for our literature prizes, and we are not trying to be the best literature prize in Accra or the best literature prize in Ghana. We're trying to be the Nobel Prize of children's literature. We're trying to do things at a very, very international standard, because our children deserve the best. For me, I think the exposure to different parts of the world just makes me realize that the difference between really excellence and mediocre is effort, and therefore mediocre is really not acceptable.
Putting out excellent work is not cheap. How do you raise funding for these projects?
For me, I've looked at every aspect of our work as a problem to be solved. So whether it's, designing a new program or picking up a book to publish or starting a new company, it's another problem to solve. So finding funds in a very competitive space is essentially just another problem to solve. So we solve it just the way we solve every other problem. We break it down, we figure out what the opportunities are, where we're weak, and then we play to our strengths, and then find what resources we can.
Now, human resources are a key element to consider when growing any enterprise. How do you hire? And is it a problem, the quality of people that you get?
And for us, it's sometimes challenging because of how much heart we put in our work. We don't just come to work. We come to create, and we come to love what we are creating, and we come to push something that really comes out from deep inside us, because that's the only way it will be very successful, especially because we're still building the foundations. And so to find people who are already on the boat that we're on takes a little bit more work. And then once you find them, for them to have the skill set that we need, because again, we're trying to operate at a very high standard. So a big part of what we do is communication. Like, your written communication has to be excellent. I can't have you organizing a literature prize and then you're writing to, a literary icon, and then, there's grammatic mistakes in your email. Like, that's completely unacceptable. That makes it challenging to find the really perfect fit, the people who will thrive in the kind of environment that we're creating.
Tell me about your leadership style.
I believe in leading by example. I believe in leading by inspiring. So for me, if you work with me and in 3 months you're still the same as when you came in, I've not been a very good leader. In 6 months, if you're not transformed, I've really failed, and maybe it's not a very good fit. I believe that as much as we're here to do the work, because in many ways it's a work that requires a lot of sacrifice, you have to really dig deep in to do excellent work. The personal reward to you should be your own growth. And for me, that's been my journey. I've grown so much and gained so much because of my commitment to this work, and it's something that personally as a leader I'm committed to having every person that I work with experience and gain.
I know that the most successful business leaders in the world have failed at some point. Tell me about your failures as a leader.
I don't think it's possible to go on any kind of leadership or entrepreneurial or organizational building journey and there are no failures. So I've definitely had my fair share of failures. I spent a year working on a proposal for an opportunity that I really thought I had in the bag. It was when I was graduating and I was looking for capital to start Golden Baobab, and a whole year, that was what I was focusing on, and I didn't get it, and that completely crushed me. But I learned very early on, after another failure, when we first launched the prizes, we got so few entries. I decided, well, this has failed, so I gave up, right? I was like, oh, this has been a great experience. I'm going back to school, awesome. And then one of my mentors asked me, hey, how did your summer projects go? You said you were building a literature prize, right? I said, oh yeah, it failed. And she said, why did it fail? And I told her, oh, we got so few entries. She's like, well, but why did you get few entries? And I said, because the deadline was short. I made a mistake. I should have made the deadline longer, but alas, it's too late. She said, who set the deadline? It's like, I set the deadline. So, well, why don't you just set another deadline? And then you wouldn't have failed. And for me, that I think that is my entrepreneurial secret, is that, you fail when you give up. So I work as an entrepreneur with the confidence that I will not fail. I'm able to dream big dreams for my organizations with the confidence that I will not fail, because I only fail when I stop. I only fail when I give up. And, I also have very strong faith in God, and I know that God is on my side. So with these two things, God on my side, and I'm not giving up. Oh yeah, even if I'm down, I'm still, even if I'm down, I'm not down, because I decide where my failure is. I've decided in this game, for me, there is no failure.
Tell me, what values are important to you and your firm? For
me personally, it's faith in God and in what I believe to be my purpose, which is this work. Second for me is authenticity, and I think the third is just quality and excellence.
So what would you say is the biggest letdown that you've experienced in your career so far?
I think the biggest letdown in my career has been, setting myself up for opportunities that I've chased, and those opportunities not coming through because I put a lot of myself in everything that I do. So to put all of yourself into something and then, it doesn't work. Or I've been involved in little projects where I build it to a certain level and hand it over, and the people just let it all come to the ground, and I'm thinking, gosh, you just took how many months of my life and just threw it into the garbage. So those are not always exciting.
This is Under 40 CEOs.
Deborah treats her firm like it's a startup, even though she has received several accolades and nods. Her vision is a huge one, and she stays focused on accomplishing even more. However, how much time does she spend unwinding, and what does she do with the time away from work? I ask questions, seeking to find out these and more. So I have a few quickfire questions for you. What do you love to eat?
Plantains.
What's your fashion style?
Simple as possible.
What's your favorite brand to wear?
No brand.
So what other CEOs do you currently look up to?
God.
All right, what's your favorite car to drive?
A car that's comfortable, that has good audio.
All right, what's your favorite travel destination?
I went to Zanzibar for my honeymoon, so that was very special. So,
what's your favorite book of all time?
Anne of Green Gables, the entire collection.
Okay, so what book are you reading right now?
I'm reading a whole bunch of children's books.
All right, tell me lastly, Deborah, what makes you happy?
Being with myself makes me happy.
All right. Thank you for coming on Under 40 CEOs, Deborah.
You. Hi, my name is Deborah Ahenkorah, and you can be an Under 40 CEO too.